NBA.com survey of all 30 of the league's front offices. It was released this morning. So let's dive into just a few of the 50 questions GMs were asked about the landscape of the NBA. When asked which team will win the 2026 finals, the defending champ Thunder, they got 80% of the vote. The Cavs, the Nuggets, they tied for second with 7% chances each. As for the MVP, you might ask, well, 2/3 of voters think Nikola Jokic will win his 4th award in the last 6 seasons, while last year's MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, finished 3rd behind Luka Doncic. Now, 63% of voters ranked the Cavaliers as the best team in the East, the Knicks being a distant second, which I thought was interesting, 30%. The Magic, they were the only other team to pick up votes for the top of the conference here. So out west, the Lakers, they might have Luka and LeBron, but GMs, they do not have confidence and they can finish in the top 2 seeds out west. In fact, they finished 7th in this survey in terms of Western Conference rankings. So this is a complete list of the survey results. This is in the Western Conference. Not a huge surprise, right? The Wolves, the Warriors, the Clippers all finishing above that play-in cutoff line. So Brian Windhorst, what do you make of the Lakers being slated as a play-in team after finishing 3rd out west last season?
Well, if I was J.J. Redick, I would have this brought to the attention of the players. Now, I will just point out, the Lakers were the number 3 seed last year, but the difference between being 3 and 7 was just 2 games. This is very tightly packed here. But I will also say that the GMs, I'm not so sure were super impressed with the Lakers' additions in the offseason. Look, the Lakers' offseason for me was defined by extending Luka Doncic. To me, that made it an A-plus offseason. But DeAndre Ayton was cut and released and bought out. Marcus Smart, cut, released, and bought out. Jake LaRavia, a guy who has bounced around a little bit, didn't even get the last year option picked up on his rookie deal. The Lakers feel like those guys are going to help their defense. The Lakers feel like a slimmer and more energized Luka Doncic is going to help their team. But the margins in the West are narrow, guys, and I'm not so sure the GMs think the Lakers were able to close them.
Look at Perk's face.
Yeah, because those same GMs, 50% of them that don't know what they're doing, got the Clippers ahead of the Lakers. So I can't respect the list anyway, because the rankings anyway, because the Clippers, they have so many unknowns. We know that James Harden fold like clean sheets every postseason. Don't know if Kawhi Leonard is going to be healthy. But it's to the point now where it's like, damn if you do, damn if you don't, if you're Rob Pelinka. You go out and you get DeAndre Ayton, address the center position the best way possible. You get a pointed attack defender on the perimeter and Marcus Smart, who has new life. But he couldn't go out and do anything else because it probably would involve them having to move on from Austin Reeves, who, by the way, all the GMs probably want and be blowing up Rob Pelinka's phone. So again, I believe that the Lakers are going to finish top 6. I believe they're one of the better teams in the Western Conference. I believe that Luka Doncic is going to be, he's my MVP front runner heading into this season.
I feel like we're going to have this argument all year.
As far
as where the standings is. I think Brian hit it on Ed. I just think there's so little separation where everyone else is outside of Oklahoma City compared to where maybe Houston and Denver are probably a little bit of ahead of the pack.
I would say so.
But when you look at Golden State and the Lakers and the Clippers, I think the big question, I'm not going to put myself in the minds of the GMs who voted on this, the concern with LeBron at age 40 years old, where he is from, coming off this injury here, and the depth of this roster. They did enough this offseason with DeAndre Ayton and Jake LaRavia and Marcus Smart to be part of the conversation. But if I'm going to be on the mound fighting for the Lakers, it's not going to be that one right there. I could see them being in that spot contending for a playing spot.
The optimistic view for the Los Angeles Lakers is that they only had Luka Doncic for half a season, and they were still 3rd in the Western Conference, right? The optimistic view is they now have a training camp with Luka in the best shape, one of the best off seasons of his career, and let's see how far they can go that way. But what Brian is saying is GMs are looking around and saying just because you took other people's scraps, that doesn't necessarily make it so that we believe in you as a team. That's the GM's view. I'm not so sure that that's fine. As for the coaching side of all of this, the Heat head coach Erik Spoelstra won both Best Head Coach and Best Manager and Motivator of People. That's a title that's pretty good. Sharpe, I understand you have some news on Spo.
Yeah, Malika, sources tell me that Erik Spoelstra will be named the next USA basketball men's national team head coach. Hey. He's succeeding Steve Kerr in the position, so he's going to have the 2027 World Cup and then the 2028 Summer Olympics here in Los Angeles. And Spoelstra is someone that USA officials really likened to all the past year. They really narrowed into Spoelstra as the next head coach for this job. And you think about the cycles that we've seen. Greg Popovich at the Tokyo Olympics, then Steve Kerr, who was the lead assistant on his staff, he takes over. Spoelstra was the lead assistant on Steve Kerr's staff.
Right.
Now he takes over. But I think he's someone that we could see. He's young enough to where he could have multiple cycles here as well.
Yeah, and this is something that we've seen. This is a trend. Ever since Coach K was coach for a couple of cycles, Pop's a coach for one, and then we see Steve Kerr one, and now Bobby, we see Eric Spoelstra being named the head coach.
I think the most interesting thing, certainly, and he's earned it based on where he's been with, certainly with Steve Kerr last Olympics, is who is going to be on this roster when we get to Los Angeles in 2028, because it could look awfully different than what we just saw in 2024.
But we know we got a coach.
We do.
Right? We know we got a coach, and Eric Spoelstra, University of Portland grad, alma mater, is an excellent choice. All right, we're going to move on from this, so we got a lot to get to in the final 20 minutes of our show. For the Red, as we say hello to our Brian Windhorst and Kendrick Perkins, that voice you just heard, Bobby Marks here as well. Brian, I'm going to start with you. Your first impressions of the new look Rockets with KD filling a void that they absolutely needed in that first round series against Golden State.
Malika, what year did you say that Kevin Durant made his debut?
2007?
How about Ace Bailey was born in 2006? Just want to put that in perspective before we go forward here. Look, I am not surprised at all that Kevin Durant came in a different uniform and started knocking down jumpers. I am not surprised at all that he's in excellent condition and ready to go. But what I took away from this game was how awesome the overall Rockets looked on offense, despite learning to live without Fred VanVleet. And I realize the Jazz are not going to be there in the playoffs this year. But boy, did Alperen Şengün impress me. You know, we've got other guys who played in the Eurobasket tournament for their countries this year who are not playing for their teams. Şengün has come into Rockets camp on a mission. He has looked terrific in these first two games. Last night had 13 rebounds. They're getting the ball to him at the center of the floor, letting him distribute. Look, we know he's got some limitations defensively. That we know. But we also know the Rockets have defensive ways that they can back him up. This was an incredibly impressive start to the Kevin Durant era, and very impressive for the Rockets' overall offensive play.
Well, we're only 1 week into preseason, but I think there's so many things you can take away. We were just talking about the length of Kevin Durant and Jabari Smith Jr., two players that are basically 7 foot.
It's like the Spider-Man meme when they're on the floor together. There's a lot of similarities.
Remember, this is a team that was one of the best defensive teams last year already. Now you had Kevin Durant. The other thing, as Brian said, you had Şengün. We were wondering who's playing point guard here. 19 assists the last 2 games. And then, of course, Amen Thompson. He's going to be the breakout star this year, an efficient 9 field goals made. A lot around the rim. We're probably going to wait and see if maybe that jump shot is developed. But this Houston team is must-see league pass when we get going for this regular season.
Must-see league pass. I have a feeling that they're going to be must-see on a lot of cable as well here. But Perk, the impressive showing from the Rockets they put up. I know Bobby mentioned the defense. You want to talk about the defense too. I feel like they put up 140. I know it's the preseason. I know it's the Jazz, but they put up 140 in this game, Perk.
They did, and look, I believe they're going to be the best offensive team in the league. They had 32 assists last night, 68 paint points, and 13 dunks. They're going to get out and run, but they're going to get stops, and it's going to be led by their best defender in Amen Thompson, who I believe is going to challenge Victor Wembanyama in the next few years as the best two-way player in the game. Look at this right here. It's instincts. Look at him. He's supposed to be at the nail, active hands, getting out in transition, speed, quickness, IQ. One of his assists right here to Jabari Smith for the lob. This is just perfect execution. And he didn't even break a sweat as he was running up and down the floor. Here we go again. Fighting over the screen. Tries to reject it. Nope, come here. I'm getting over the screen. Now watch this. Look how easy this is. Look how easy this is.